So when I first started hearing about TikTok, it's because my ex had called me a covert narcissist. She started throwing words at me I'd never heard before, and they really put my head into a tailspin. So the first thing I did was like get on. I figure out her use. She gives me her username, and I figure out who she's following. I listen to the people that she's following, and I get the idea. Geez, am I a covert narcissist? So I get a therapist. And on the intake, the therapist looks at it, and I'm absolutely like, okay, apparently I'm a covert narcissist. Apparently I can't even remember all the things that I said that I was, that I figured out through TikTok, that I was accused of being. My therapist read the intake, and they even say today that my intake was the most memorable and horrific because especially after learning who I was, they found out that I was none of these things. None of them. And even after my ex got a therapist, she'd have to apologize for the things that she said to me. Now, one thing that I want to put forward is that TikTok was different then than it is now. TikTok during COVID was very female centric. There weren't many men on it, just like when Twitter started. You might not know this, but Twitter was an app for women. TikTok was an app for women. Little girls, basically. TikTok was all about kids dancing and doing stupid things. Guess what? Twitter was still kind of that way too. And then something happened. The adults took it over the same way adults took over hockey and baseball and comics and ruined everything. And the way that they're ruining Pokemon cards right now by speculating on them. We all got on it and everything changed. But now, when I was on it to try to figure out what the heck happened to my wife, it was much different than it is now. Anything that I could find based off women's health wasn't about women's health. It was about women trying to slander men with narcissism. And that was the big part of it. That was a giant part of it. And if there were men on it, they were saying that you're failing. This is how you're failing, and this is what you should do. There were no men's help. There was no men's health. That didn't exist there. And I know a lot of people saying that TikTok is what you make of it, and it's the algorithm. Now here's the thing. A lot of the times on YouTube, even in Google, the engineers don't even know what's going on in the algorithm. Look this one up, legitimately. But also remember that TikTok is attached to the Communist People's Party, the CCP. Now, the CCP I hate. The Chinese people I love. But we need to accept the fact that many of them don't like us as Westerners because our parents, our grandparents, the British, really screwed up the Chinese with the Opium Wars. And they still remember that stuff. Guys, China is ancient compared to our countries. Like, I was born in 82. Guess when Canada became its own freely, fully independent country? It hasn't been that long. Since my birth, basically, Canada has been the Canada that we know. China's ancient. China's been around for a long time. Like, the Americas, we like to act like we've been around forever and we got good history. Okay, in Rome, if you try to make a parking lot, you're probably going to find ancient shit underneath the ground. That doesn't happen over here. We're not really that ancient. China is ancient. Ancient, ancient, ancient. So I get back on TikTok these days, and I'm taking a look around. And now that the men have gotten onto it, now that it's not all kids and stay-at-home wives, it's changed. But what I'm not seeing is much positive. I'm seeing, well, flat-out racist videos that I laugh at quite a bit about immigrants, basically. I'm seeing a lot more videos about men dealing with female narcissists. This wasn't there before. You can tell me it was there, but I was there when this magic was written. I was there back in the day. I was on it during COVID to try to find out what happened to my ex and the stuff that she was listening to. Now, what you're going to find out from lawyers and therapists is it was the women that came in saying, oh, my husband, my ex, is narcissistic. And then the men get into it a few years later. Now, what I'm trying to say is, actually, before I lay that fuzz down, so I got on to TikTok without signing in recently, just swiping, just swiping. And there was comedians, there was videos about kids, and then there was videos about immigration, anti-immigration videos. What does that say about us in Canada? Because at that point, the only thing that they would have had is my country, is the country that I was in, and maybe my cell phone, but not my sign, and they didn't know who I was. And there was a lot of anti-immigrant stuff. So I'm wondering, um, does this point to Canada being sick of immigrants, or does this point to TikTok just trying to destabilize, basically? Now, we all know that within Canada, USA, multiple places around the world ban TikTok from government buildings because they get so much information. TikTok will take so much information from you that if your husband, if your significant other asked you for this information, for your location information, for camera use, for audio use, you would say that he was a narcissist if he asked for this stuff. But you give it to TikTok, you give it to the CCP, you give it to them. And that just gives me cause for concern, cause to sit and think, what's going on here? Really, what's going on here? How many of us are being manipulated, and at what point? And at what point do we do something about it? Ultimately, what I'm throwing down is I really think that TikTok is made to destabilize. I've been on all kinds of other platforms, and I'm not noticing the level of destabilization. I'm not noticing the negative information like I am on that app. There's so many other apps out there that have not been banned in so many damn countries. But another thing that I want to point out is if you have a therapist, the therapist will tell you that if you have other therapists, if you have multiple therapists, sometimes the therapists will mess with each other in ways they don't mean to. So they will tell you, look, you get done with that therapist, then you come and talk to me. Because sometimes wires get crossed. Basically, what I'm saying is, even therapists know you're only supposed to have one, maybe two therapists at a time. Now, here's the thing. Facebook, let's face it, it messes with you a little bit. We can't say it doesn't because we already know what Facebook has done in the past. They have had tests to see if they could make people happy or sad. Actually, they had tests to make sure that they could make people sad. They did a particular test. Google this. I'm sorry, I hate to say that. It sounds like a conspiracy theorist thing to say. But Google has openly admitted, Facebook has openly admitted that they have wanted and tried to make people sad to see if they could manipulate emotions. And now, if they've tried that, there's so many other things that they've probably tried that we don't know about. Now, this is going to sound conspiracy theory to people from the 80s, but people who know anything now know that the CIA is we just know openly now, especially if you have a friend who's into criminal behavior in the United States, then we just know that the CIA is fine with doing cocaine type stuff. We already know about the Contras and Oliver North. And we basically know, if you look into it, you find out that the CIA isn't into busting people for drugs. They're interested in busting people for other reasons. If you look into things that they do in like Afghanistan, Iraq, and places like that, you find out that CIA and often military has made deals with people that if they help them with this, that, or the other thing, they won't worry if they grow opium on their land, basically. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but it's not good to have multiple social media folks messing with your head if there's too many of them. Like, if you're on Facebook, be on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Reddit, all of these things, you have multiple things messing with your mind. And you got to figure out which one you want to be on. You got to stay on that one. Anyways, that's my rant for today. Watch who's messing with your head. Watch how long you're on social media. If you're on social media for more than 4 hours a day, someone is controlling your thoughts, basically. Someone's trying to get your head one way or another. And then the same can be said for television, except in the 80s, news wasn't so bombastic. It wasn't trying to get you to believe a certain thing. It wasn't trying to push a narrative so much, although it was trying to get you to a call to action. And if you are in a media class, and you know that, that's one thing you're supposed to do, especially when you're doing a documentary. Geez, even the documentaries we have these days aren't actual documentaries if you go by the rules of making a documentary in the 80s. Like, you're never supposed to push your narrative. You're never supposed to push your ideas. It's all supposed to be, if you ever hear in a documentary someone asking questions or leading particular questions and they've done it wrong, because it's supposed to be the other individual giving the whole story, and the interviewer should never be heard. But times change, things change, and hopefully for the better. And I think we're doing a lot of silly things that our kids are going to realize are silly, and then we're going to look back on, and all of this TikTok stuff is going to look real dumb. Real dumb. Talking about TikTok and real dumb. There's a lot of kids trying to do these videos about surfing on trains and stuff like that. Over in Orangeville near Sobeys, there was a kid that was trying to ride a car, and something happened, and he ends up going under the car and airlifted to hospital in Toronto. We're doing a lot of dumb shit, guys. Anyways, this is it for me. Thanks for listening to me and my rants about social media. TikTok has definitely changed, but I still think that it gets a lot of its viewers through hate. And I can tell that by all of the racist stuff towards Indians, Middle Eastern people, that it has so openly these days. It's interesting. It's really interesting. Anyway, that's it for me, folks. Take care of each other, will you?